Hi, I think this is the third video in the playlist on using the quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations. And really what we've said is that the way that you would approach these type of questions is if it says solve, in other words, find the value of x, and they want you to do it to three significant figures. Sometimes you'll get something like 2 decimal places, but either way what it's doing is it's telling you that you need to use the calculator in order to solve this equation, which is x squared plus x plus 11 equals 14. Okay, so it's a calculator question using the quadratic formula. Now the quadratic formula is usually given at the front of the exam paper, however you do get to know it fairly well just by doing a few kind of practice questions, and it's x equals minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so that's the formula that we're going to use. It is fairly straightforward, but what you have to remember is you've got to get your quadratic in the correct format, and that is that because we're solving the quadratic, what we're doing is we're looking for the values of x when y equals 0. So it could be that it's something like that. So we've got to get this point, that's x, but it's also y equals 0. So we've got to change this around. And what we end up with is x squared plus x. Now, I've got equals 14 there. Well, I don't want it to equal 14. I want it to equal 0. So what I'm going to do is minus 14 from both sides. Because if I minus 14 from that side, I get 0, which is exactly what I want. So 0. If I minus 14 from there, it's positive 11 minus 14. Well, that's going to be minus 3. Okay, so now it's in the correct form for me to be able to use the quadratic formula. And what I'm going to say is that this x squared here, if you like, it's got 1x squared, and that's plus 1x. And those are the two values, one for a and one for b. And this value here, minus 3, is the value for c. Now I've got those, I can just simply put those into the equation, but you've got to be a little bit careful because fairly typically with these kind of questions you tend to get c being a minus value because it can trip you up a little bit with some of the minus multiplication at the top there. You'll see what I mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write these numbers in the correct way in the formula. So I've got x equals, now first one is minus b. Well, that's positive 1 at the moment, so I'm going to make that minus 1. That's going to be plus or minus the square root of b, just positive 1 this time, so b on its own, which is 1 squared, and that's minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is minus 3. Now I do suggest that you put these into brackets because it just makes things a little bit clearer, a little bit easier to deal with. You're going to divide this by 2 times a. Well, a is 1, so just divide it all by 2. Okay. Now it's a case really of dealing with what's underneath the square root sign, and once you've got that you should be in a position then to be able to put the numbers into your calculator and work through this particular calculation. So we've got minus 1, I'm going to leave that as it is, so I've got plus or minus and I've got root. Okay, so I've got 1 squared, well that's fine, 1 squared is 1 times 1, so I'm just going to leave that as 1, that's fine. I've got minus at the moment, so I've got 1 times minus 3. Well, 1 times minus 3 is minus 3. So I've got minus 3 at that point there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply minus 3 by minus 4. So I've got minus 4 in the middle here times minus 3. Well, a minus times a minus is a positive, so this is where it can go wrong. This is actually a positive number here, and it's going to be positive 12. Okay, because 4 times, or minus 4 times minus 3 is positive 12. Okay, I'm going to divide that then by 2. Right, so great. I'm in a position now. I know that this is going to be root of 13 because 1 plus 12 is 13. So I can get my two values of x. The first one is where x is added to this root. So I've got x equals minus 1 plus the square root of 13, all divided by 2. And then my second value of x, I've got x equals minus 1 minus the square root of 13, all divided by 2. Okay, if I put those into a calculator, I'm going to get some big long numbers, so you're going to have to bear with me a little bit, but I've got x equals 1.302775638. Okay, you might want to check that on your calculator, make sure I've got it correct there. And then the other one is x equals minus 2.3027756. This is really boring. 5638. Okay, alrighty, so those are the two calculations using my calculator. Just be really careful about those and make sure that you feed in the information correctly. Calculators are fairly dumb, really. They're not able to interpret, so you need to be really careful how you do that. Okay, and also please do make sure that you answer the question. The question's asked for 3 significant figures. So at the moment, if this was a 4-mark question, you would have got 3 marks. So the 4th mark is gained by making sure you answer it to 3 significant figures. Well, in this case, my 3rd significant figure is 0. It doesn't need to change because that's below 5. So it's going to be x equals 1.30. And on this one here, my 3rd significant figure is 0. That also doesn't need to change, so x equals minus 2.30 on that one. And that would answer the question. Okay, I hope that's been okay for you. Please do add a comment below if there's anything that you're not sure of. Also, if you like the kind of videos that I'm involved in, then please do subscribe to the channel, and I'll look forward to seeing you inside the next video.